We are now going to talk about adding and subtracting decimals. The main thing you need to remember about adding and subtracting decimals is you have to line up the decimals. So let's look at a few examples. So let's look at the first one. So we have to calculate the sum of each of these three problems. So let's go through them really quick. The first thing that will be helpful is if you round them to start. So if I look at this and I have 15.85, well, if the 0.8 is above 0.5, so I can say that's going to be 16, plus 3.2 would be 3, and then the 0.03 would be 7, which would be 26. So when you add them, so then when you're adding them, so now you have an estimation. You think it's going to be around 26. So now when I add them, I have to line up my decimals. So it's going to be 15.85. Then it's going to be 3.20. We add the 0, and then 7.03. And then you add them up. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10, and I have to carry the 1, and then I put my decimal because it's going to go straight down. 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 1 is 9, plus 7 is 16, and then you carry your 1, and then that would be 26.08. It is very close. So again, I'm going to do the last one just because it's got a few more, and then, so I'd say 5.804 would be 6 plus 126 plus 7 plus 38. And so when I do this one, I would add it up, and I would get 177. So it's going to be around 177. And this one I'm actually going to show you in the calculator just so that you have an idea of how to do it. So let's look at this one. So you use the calculator. When you use the calculator, make sure the first thing you do is you click the clear a couple of times to make sure it's cleared out. Okay, so then 5.804, check and make sure it's the same, plus 126.19, make sure it's the same, plus 7.236, okay, it's the same, plus 38.3, and you push enter, and it's 177.53. That's a very close estimation I made. And so when you do this, it's helpful if you make an estimation to make sure it's correct. So now let's go through some subtraction problems. So we have some subtraction problems. So we're going to do an estimation to start again. So if I look at 459.6, I would say that's 460. Minus 12.43, I could say was 12. And then I would equal it, and that would be 248. And so, again, the goal is you can do it with longhand, which I'm going to show you just so that you kind of remember how to do it, and that's what it's asking you to do in decimals. So 450, or in your mathy I meant, so 459.6 minus 12.43. Again, you have to line up your decimals, and if there's not a number in one of them, you're going to have to add a 0. So I added a 0 here. So right here is where I added my 0 because there was no number there. You can add as many zeros as you need. So now let's subtract it. So I need to regroup. So this 0 is going to become a 10, and the 6 is going to be 5. And you're going to do the same thing when you do your homework. So 10 minus 3 is 7. 5 minus 4 is 1. 9 minus 2 is 7. 5 minus 1 is 4, and then 4 minus 0. You could add a 0 here so that you don't forget that you're subtracting it, and you would get 4. So it's 447.17. So obviously I did something wrong with my estimation up here, and I think it's because it's supposed to be 448. I just wrote it incorrectly. So it's actually 448, which is very close to the 447.17. And again, a good way to do it is you can check the answer in your calculator. So you can go 459.6 minus 12.43. The goal here is to actually be able to use the calculator correctly, because a lot of times you'll get the wrong answer and you'll be like thinking it's right, and the estimation helps you to think if it's correct or not. So that is adding and subtracting decimals. The main thing you need to remember is that if there is not a number in the Like for this one, there's not a number. It's 3 behind the decimal place. So for this one, you would have to add the 2 zeros so that you could subtract it correctly if you're doing it longhand. On this one, you would have to add 2 zeros to the 17.4 because this one has 3. And that's the main thing to remember about subtracting. And I hope that helped you out. Have a good day.